Hey guys, it's Tyler. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to go over some beginner tips to help you on your next backpacking trip, or your first one. Let's get into it. So, tip number one is actually a quote, and that is, be bold and start cold. Now, what I mean by this is my first backpacking trip, especially in the winter, was a hell of a time, mind I say. It's great, but a hell of a time. I started off with a balaclava, I had a beanie on, I had a thermal t-shirt, a long sleeve top under that, just the normal one that you get in your cupboard, and then I had a hoodie over the top, and then my puffer jacket, big bulky pants, 2 pairs of socks, big chunky boots, and yeah, that was fun. Within 20 minutes, I think I was wet, and not from rain, not from snow, from sweat. So yeah, that was. I ended up getting cold. You know, started taking off layers, and yeah, it was a nightmare. Just saying it lightly, but that's all right. I lived and I learned, and now I always start, with less layers, and that way it's also, within the first half an hour of your trip, your hike, sorry, you're going to get really warm, and you're not even going to realize that it's cold. Maybe keep your, a light puffer jacket or, fleece, just on top of your bag, so when you stop, you can quickly throw it on, and then, that way you're not stopping all the time and taking off layers and putting them back on, because you sweated through and then you're all cold. And just make sure you be bold and start cold. Doesn't have to be naked, just a little less than you normally wear, or maybe just a walk around the block. So that's tip number one. Now, so tip number two is get yourself a pair of good insoles. Now, these ones might look a bit older, and they've been on a few hikes, but they still got a bit of life left in them. But these things are amazing. They're pretty thick, and I went on a day hike with my trail runners just to see what the insoles were like. They were pretty rubbish, which I kind of expected. Most insoles are. They're just crappy thin ones. So I went and got myself a good pair of insoles, especially someone like me. I have bad ankles from playing sports, so that mixed with support, and it just takes more shock away, especially if you're somewhere where you hike, there's a lot of rocks and things like that. Like you don't feel it as much. Not that you really should be feeling it, but it just takes the pressure and the shock of constantly going over big rocks and things like that. So definitely get yourself a pair of good insoles. Highly recommend you do that. So on that topic of feet, tip number three is get yourself a good pair of socks. Whether it's your big, thick merino winter socks. These are amazing. I actually use these to sleep in usually for the winter. Or it depends on where I am and how cold it's actually going to be. But these, if you're someone who wears boots, these will be good for boots, because everyone knows merino, or most people know merino, wicks away sweat. They're very breathable. They don't smell, and they just, when it's cold, they keep your feet warm. When it's warm, they keep them not cold, but because they're so breathable, you don't notice that your feet are warm, and I feel like it helps with swelling, which is really good. Because when I first went hiking in the snow, instead of having merino wool, I had 2 pairs of work socks on at a time, and it wasn't fun. And then in the summertime, I just grabbed your normal casual, socks that you wear, and my feet just got, they held in all the sweat. My feet went all gross, they went smelly, and they really hurt because they felt like they were swelling so much, because the socks were like binding to them as well, because they were just wet and sweaty and gross. So yeah, so you can get yourself a good thick pair of merinos, your basic, thin merinos, crew cut, just your nice thinner ones. good pair of Injinji toe socks are now my favourite pair of socks. So even if you want to get yourself some Injinji toe socks, these things are amazing. They're light, they're breathable, they're fantastic. Or if you're someone who does a lot of, you know, water kind of crossings and things, or a lot of snow hiking, get yourself a pair of waterproof socks. I'm actually going to put a link for these down below, because these things are amazing. They're thick, but they feel like they're very breathable, and they kept my feet so dry in the snow. Even once my trail runners were soaked, I even stood in a puddle a few times, you know, just fell through some soft snow into like water, like a little creek underneath, and these still kept my feet absolutely dry. So I recommend these. Are just on Amazon. I think they're like $40-50. I'll put a link for these down below. So that is tip number 3. Moving on, it's still on the clothes side of things. Tip number 4. Do not bring cotton. I highly recommend you don't. I still have my cotton thermals. These I took on that winter hike. Didn't know too much. Like, I should have thought, you know, cotton, once it's wet, you know, when you hang cotton up after it's been in the washing machine, you gotta leave it for like 4 days and it's still dripping. These things, they're heavy, they're thick, and when they get wet, it's just a nightmare. They don't dry. They're so much more heavier, and they make hiking hell, especially if they're wet. They're not going to keep you warm. They're not going to do anything but weigh you down and just ruin your time. So whether it's a t-shirt, whether it's thermals, even though your thermals shouldn't be getting wet, even though it's thermals, whether it's socks, pants, like, just don't bring cotton on a hike, because I can promise you, if it rains or it gets wet, you are not going to have fun. And it can just, if it's your first hike, it might even turn you off hiking again. So I highly recommend, don't wear cotton. Save that for home, and, you know, even camping. Like, I probably wouldn't really take these camping. I take these to the snow sometimes when I'm with family, so I have these underneath. But even then I get very hesitant, and sometimes I'll opt out and just bring my merino. So I still keep these. Never know when you might need them. But I'll tell you one thing, you won't need them for hiking. So tip number 5 is a statement, and that is, don't buy something because someone told you to. Now, this could be to do with your favorite YouTuber, somebody your favorite gear company, because your best friend's cousin's uncle's mum told you have to get it. Make sure you do your research. Make sure you look at reviews, look at video reviews. If you have a local outfitter that has what you're looking for, make sure you try it on, you know, whether it's a pair of shoes. Walk around a bit, go for a bit of a run. Some, you know, backpacking, you know, retailers, they have a lot of sleeping pads, they have a lot of sleeping bags. Try them. Go in the middle of the winter and go, hey, what's the chance of me laying this outside? I've got, you know, my sleeping bag, my sleeping pad out the front. Can I just try it, see what it feels like outside? Just try it. And speak to people. Speak to as many people as you can. Don't just take 2 people's word, or 1 person, because it's not going to be fun. Saying that, I can't remember for the life of me, but I'll put a little shout out down here. But I had somebody on my channel comment, and they recommended a sleeping pad, the Big Agnes Rapide, I believe is how you say it, because I'm looking at upgrading. And I hadn't heard of that sleeping pad, so I've done my research, spoke to a few hikers, watched a lot of videos, actually spoke to Big Agnes. So I've done my research, and now I'm convinced, and that will be my new sleeping pad of choice. So I guess I got a bit lucky with that one. It was not a dud, and it's actually, you know, a good price as well. So I'm looking forward to getting that one. But yeah, please guys, please do your research. It needs to be done. So number 6 is get yourself a good poop trowel. Now there's plenty out there on the market. You know, I've got 2 here. So you got the Cedar Summit one and the Deuce 2. Now I'm not a big fan of the Cedar Summit. Some people like it because it you know, they feel like it's strong, it digs good cat holes. But for me, it feels not good when you're digging. I don't know, it's a personal thing. But there's only one thing I like about this trowel, which I have spoken about in another video. But you can keep 9 squares of toilet paper inside here. So that's a bonus, especially if you're somebody like me who uses a bidet. You know, give it a squirt, don't have to let it drip dry or use a leaf. You just rip a square off, dab it dry, and you're good to go. But I changed that out and went for the deuce of spades. Deuce of spades? Oh, I went with the deuce. This is number 2. They're like second model, and the main thing I noticed they changed is the handle here isn't rough and feel jagged like it's going to cut open. So that's like really the only difference. But this thing's amazing. It weighs, I think, 19 grams. It's light. It's a bit flexible, but does the job well enough for me. And just please guys, also just this kind of another little tip, kind of a 2-part tip. I don't know if you can see on here, but leave no trace, guys. Like, it's nothing worse when you're on a trail, especially in summer, and you wake up at a popular campsite. You wake up and it looks like it's been snowing because people have just gone to the toilet and left toilet paper everywhere. So I know it sounds a bit gross, but have a Ziploc bag somewhere. And just take your toilet paper with you, unless you don't want to do that. Maybe invest in a bidet, because we all want to be out on the trail and we don't want to be seen where you've gone, done your doo-doo. Get yourself a trowel, whether it's a cheap one, good one, whatever it may be, and just think about the other people. It's nice when you don't have to dig into someone's poop. But anyways, if you guys have any other tips and tricks, I'd love to hear it down in the comment section below. If you got any tips yourself of this video, make sure you hit that like button. Please also hit the subscribe button and make sure you hit that bell notification so you get notified when my next video goes up. And with that being said, I'll see you on the next one.